Mr. Steinman, when we talk about water infrastructure, can you probably give us a short definition of that?
Elizabeth, let's make it very basic.
Okay.
When you are at home, what keeps you dry?
A roof over my head.
Your roof. So it starts with very basic things, that if your house didn't have a roof, you're going to get wet.
Yeah.
And the whole house will flood and everything inside it will damage. So that's the beginning of water infrastructure, is where we exist in the natural environment that is sometimes dry and sometimes wet. And we have to make provision for the dry times. So if your doors and your windows don't seal properly, the dust comes in.
Yeah.
And we have to make provision for the wet times. You have to have a roof, and you have to have gutters, and the water flows down your driveway. And the whole township has to be designed in a way that it gets rid of flood water. And you would also, if you look at the building regulations of the city of Windhoek, you are not allowed to obstruct the natural flow of flood water. Whether it's a small flood in the street or whether it's a huge flood in the river, whatever you do, it must enable or allow the water to flow freely to the natural drainage lines. Now we get to the second phase, which is capturing that water. And for that we have a number of dams. So the very first, or the very obvious one in water infrastructure, is a reservoir, a form of containment that you keep the water. But as you will know, the city of Windhoek is fairly adept in purification of water, because we've been doing it since the 1950s, and also since 2013, when we had the first major dry year in the series of dry years that we had, the city replenishes the underground aquifer by taking some of this flood water and guiding it into boreholes so that it can go back. Now, in the beginning, I had to get my mind around this. We drill holes in the ground to get water out. But as you know, if you, let's say you're very lucky and you have a borehole that gives you about 4,000 liters an hour. That's not a lot. A good borehole can give you 40,000 liters an hour, but 4,000 is usually deemed sort of entry level, or what you need to sustain the typical farm and one post. So it's usually the house and the kraals around the house. So you've got that, but you will also notice that if it's a dry year, or from more or less July, August, September, if you over extract that borehole, the water level in it drops. And you can even kill a borehole by pumping it dry completely. So this is why it is such an ingenious part of the infrastructure, is to funnel part of the water back into the boreholes, so that they can replenish the subterranean aquifer, so that when the city is forced to start extracting from boreholes, the water level is high enough. One must always keep in mind that aquifer is just a big dam under the ground. It's nothing else. So whether the water is stored at surface level or whether it's stored there 80 meters below the surface, it's basically irrelevant. The fact is the borehole is a more efficient storage, because there's very little evaporation. There's a bit of seepage, but because you're talking about rock, it's usually very little. So boreholes have become a very important part of water infrastructure. Then, as you will know, that if we, let's say Von Bach is 80% full and Swakopmund is 100% full, like they are now, then we know that the city of Windhoek is more or less okay for the next 4, 5, 6 years. Because if the level in Vonbach drops, NamWater pumps the water back from Swakopmund upstream, and they refill Vonbach, and also with the eastern water carrier, the water comes from Omatako Dam, and beyond that, if you go further north, it comes from the Karstveld near Grootfontein, with a series of canals and pipelines, and it is brought back to Vonbach Dam from Omatako, just there where the Ovitoto Road crosses the river that flows into Vonbach. So this is all part of water infrastructure, because even if Vonbach is full, before we can use it for human habitation, we have to clean it. The water has to be pure before it can become potable. And that is the second part of water infrastructure, and it's very important to take that raw water and make it usable so that we can live from it or use it in a factory or even irrigate something with it. So there comes in the economic component to take that raw water and make it usable, to give it a certain value.
Okay. And well, let's quickly go for another short break. And once we come back, we will talk about the economic component.